spirituality, does that play a role in, how does that play a role in your practice of law? Does your own spirituality and sort of dealing with the world? I don't know how that's a hard question. Maybe
I
not.
think it's an easy question, because I think it's a wonderful question. And the answer is yes, deeply and constantly. I have no religion. I'm an atheist. And it doesn't, I'm sure there are people that will be very upset to hear that. But when I say that, that just means that I don't have any religion, and I don't believe in any particular shape of a higher power. But I do believe that there are forces in the world much, much bigger than I'll ever understand. And I am always engaged in thinking about those and hoping that what I'm doing pleases them in some way. I would not do anything in my life that wasn't consistent with the way I feel about people and their obligations to each other. I do not do a confrontational law. I do a constructive law that brings people together. I don't believe in confrontational law. So I don't practice it. Times in my life where I did litigation, I never felt good about it. Even when I won, other than the elation of, like winning junior soccer or something, you have that competitive thing, but it never felt particularly right. Here, my only enemy is the U.S. government, and the enemy is in quotes because it just means if I've done my job right, I've made the government do its job right, and that's what the government should do in a democracy. I like my work, my chosen life's work, because it is consistent with my life view. And if it weren't, I would never be able to do it for almost 30 years. I'd be very unhappy all the time. I'd probably be divorced in AA or something. So instead, I get joy out of every day.
And do you think a lawyer's job is to administer the law, or to use the law to their client's benefit, or to make law? Or is it all of those things, like
It's
the relationship?
all of those things at any time, sure. I mean, it's all of those things and many more things. I think it's probably to create law when you need to. It's to reverse law when you need to. It's to eliminate law when you need to, and tell people this isn't a legal issue. You need to go to a counselor. You need to have, some other kind of arrangement to resolve what you feel is a legal issue. It's all those things.
Okay, I'll do one more main topic. Okay, clients. You deal with lots of clients from lots of different cultures, and part of one of the things Dean Massaro has a lot of really interesting things on is sort of recognizing what a client's problem is, and sometimes the problem isn't exactly what the client thinks the problem is, but also recognizing the cultural differences. So you can't put your cultural thing, you know what I mean, like sort of all that kind of stuff. And do you have that with what you do, or is it so straightforward because it's dealing with the government and it's immigrant? I mean, is it sort of, how does that all work?
I think, no, I do understand the question, and we do it with it in every case, literally. Redefining a presenting problem so that it is isolated as a legal problem that we can deal with, and then giving someone guidance about the other pieces of the presenting problem so that they know what box to put that in, and even helping them see where they might go to solve it. And so we do that all the time. I think really every lawyer does.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. We have someone who's in the process of getting their immigration visa, their green card, and they are worried about and call you and say, I need to go home next month because I'm getting married. Many cultures have arranged marriages, and if I can't get there, my family will be disappointed, will lose face. It's unacceptable to them. And so I must leave, even though legally you've told me I can't leave. And so we need to start from the beginning and say, these are issues that are personal to you, your decision to marry. This is another part of that, your family's disappointment if you can't meet their expectations. This is the part we're managing the law. And here's some things that we can do over here that will alleviate some of this. Some of this you may need to go back to your parents and explain. I'm happy to give you language or communicate with them directly to explain part of this. I can do that even though I can't change the law. I can help them understand this piece of it maybe. that kind of thing. So you're not shutting them down and just saying, this is all I can do, nor are you saying, oh, okay, we'll make this cultural thing fit, even though we really can't. It's fairly typical.
And what happens when they want more from you than you can give? I mean, that they want you to solve problems that you can't solve.
I think in the beginning you feel just terrible. I mean, I'm a social work background and a community activist, and I love solving problems. So you just feel really bad, and you take on much more than you should. You don't draw the boundaries you should. As you get older and wiser, and experience has taught you that opening yourself up to solve problems you can't solve does no one any good. Certainly not your client, certainly not you. You just get a lot better at being able to identify and isolate what you can do and drawing clear boundaries with your client about what you can't. And that's probably appropriate to say, I wish I could help you with these things. Here are a couple ideas, but it's just not what I could do for you.
Do you have other questions before we do the last one? No? Because we're going to run out of time?
No, fine.
Do you have anything, or I'll ask you this last one.
I did have something about spirituality.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. I'm not in any way a religious person. I mean, the people that heard me say something about spirituality, many people would go, what? So I think I've only recently been able to identify that component, recently as in the last few years, as being such a driving force in my career. It's always been there, and it's always been a benchmark for me. I've made many decisions about leaving a law firm or joining a law firm in which fundamentally my spiritual place about what they were doing or how they did it was really the deciding factor, but I never identified that. I'd usually coat that in a political term. I don't like the way they treat minorities. I'm opposed to the way they treat women. And what I was really saying when I drilled down to it and talked about it to myself and others and learned more was there's a difference in the way this group of people sees community. There's a difference in the way they see mutual respect and obligation that just is completely unacceptable to me. It would make me something I don't want to become to stay here. So I think in part to continue to explore that, this year I took a 2-month sabbatical and I walked a pilgrimage route in Spain, which is an ancient Catholic pilgrimage route. I had no more affection for the Catholic faith after than I did before, which was zero, although they do have some great art. But what I loved about that walk was the 500-mile walk was the chance it gave me to put in place, in perspective, what I do for a living and how happy I was with what I do for a living. You know, the walk validated an awful lot of pieces of my choices over the years that I had made without much profound reflection. You know, a little bit of just going with my gut reaction. But I think beyond that, it was a lot of stuff really going on inside me that I hadn't really spent any time thinking about overtly, but I had spent a lot of time thinking about somewhere subconsciously. And that walk, which is every day, just 20 miles a day, beautiful, alone time, I just felt buoyant about my professional choice. And I think the reason was I always did what I deep down inside felt was the right thing to do with my days, you know, help people do something that they wanted to do, which in the end built a closer world. So I think that's pretty spiritual. I think people that don't have that, and you can find that in any part of law, it's very personal, but if you don't have that, you can't possibly love it year after year after year.
That's pretty cool. All right, anything else before we do our last question?
No, that's it.
Happiest moment. What has been your happiest moment in law?
I just have way too many. There's no one
Do a
happy
couple.
moment.
You don't get out of it.
Oh, gosh. Spending time with other lawyers that love what they do and sharing ideas about the law or about cases. I really find that very, very enriching. Creating our own firm, Diane and I, and doing what we always said we wanted to do, celebrate our staff, treat them really well, let them rise to whatever level they think they can rise to without any artificial limits about who you are. You didn't go to college, you don't have a degree, that kind of thing. That is just constantly joyful for both of us. And in terms of just day-to-day cases and all that, I think anytime you've kind of made a match, you got something done that was difficult to do and you knew that your skills were unique in making that happen is a really good moment.
Very good. Well, thank you. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.